understood that a kehila, every kehila, needs a shul, needs a mikveh, needs a cheder. There are certain tzrachim that a kehila has. In more recent years, it became assumed that we would need a hatzalah. A kehila could use a hatzalah. And even more recently, it's becoming evident that to be shomer a kehila and to be able to function properly as b'nei Torah in a kehila, we also need a tag office. The sakana, the dangers of technology are not like lamashal, you would have like a magefa in town of dangerous bees. So you would find out what the best spray would be, and you would spray the town, and the bees would die, and everyone would go home and live happily ever after. It's not like that with technology, because technology is not something we could live without. It's here. And each one of us, in a little bit of a different way, has a different type of relationship with it. And therefore, it's an ongoing challenge. It's an evolving challenge, a growing challenge that affects every single one of us and our spouses and our children, and sometimes in very different ways. So it's therefore such a bracha for us, and we have such hakaras hatov to Tag International, and specifically tonight to Rabbi Gottleib, for not just for coming tonight and speaking, which is the schlep is long enough and the hakaras hatov is enough for that alone, but also for the constant idud v'chizuk that I know that Tag International gives our tag office here. And a little bit like a new baby is being born, a new tag office. And they provide it with that chizuk and that idud as it continues to develop to help it grow. And we're very, very makir tov. I do want to mention that I am sure that one of the reasons that Tag International feels so confident putting kaiches into Waterbury is because they see Rabbi Meyerfeld as being a proper shliach. Rabbi Eliyahu's ambition and creativity and mesiras nefesh and devotion, dedication to the shmira of this city with a lebedikite and a geschmack is something that is we couldn't, if we searched the world, I don't think we could have found someone better to help be shomer this city in this way. And it's the shidduch between Tag Waterbury and Tag International is Baruch Hashem a gewaldig and ongoing shidduch, and it's a tremendous kavod to introduce Rabbi Gottleib.
Good evening, everybody. I'm very happy to be here tonight for a number of reasons. One of them being that not so long ago, I was speaking with Reb Michael Rothschild of Chofetz Chaim Heritage Foundation fame, who I'm somewhat b'yedidus with, and we were talking about fundraising, and I was talking to him about advice. He's a Welt fundraiser, and he said to me something. He said, you just got to get out there and do it. And he said, me talking about himself, and he was talking to myself and Rabbi Drew were there. He said, we don't get schar for anything that we do except for fundraising. The rest of it is a pleasure. It's all geschmack, but fundraising is tough. It's mesiras nefesh or whatever. He says, that's what we get the schar for. So stop whatever you're doing and go and fundraise. So being here today to go with Rabbi Eliyahu is something which we don't always get a chance to do that. I can tell you that the reception here in Waterbury is incredible. The people here are so nice and so welcoming and so gracious and so supportive. So, Ashreichem, was really a very, very nice experience. No bizyanis here, no Baruch Hashem, very, 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 very nice. The Chofetz Chaim famously said that there's a world map and there's a Yiddish world map. On the world map, we know which the big cities are, New York and London and etc. and so on and so forth. And in his place is Varsha and Lodz and whatever it was. But on the Yiddish world map, there's Radin, and there's Kellam, and these are the big, huge cities. There are other cities which on the Tokyo doesn't exist on the Yiddish world map. And we have a tag map. There's over 50 centers. And let me tell you that Waterbury is an enormous shtat on the tag map, far out of the proportion of the amount of people that are here, precisely for the reason that the Rav said previously, that Rebbe Eliyahu is incredible. And I can tell you that the Rav, you see it here based on the people in Waterbury. I'm comparing and contrasting with many tag coordinators around the world. Do not take it for granted. Somebody who's so passionate and wise and sensitive and proactive and thinking and doing and so on and so forth and in touch. So you really have something very, very special here, and I encourage everybody to take opportunity of it. And I encourage each one of you sitting here tonight, who I guess you're the people who are feel more closeness to TAG, to reach out to somebody else in the community, somebody else who might not have had yet that interaction with TAG, and encourage them, invite them. You know, you can just tell a person, there's no strings attached. You can come in, you can meet him. You don't want to filter your devices? Don't filter your devices. It's your choice. You're the boss. We're here to serve. We're here to help. But encourage another Yid to come in and take advantage. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about digital technology, and I want to say first that I'm not here to give mussar. I'm not here, to stand on a pedestal and tell anybody what to do. I'm not a big Rav or a Rosh Hashiva or a big tzaddik. I'm just like anybody else sitting here, excluding the younger light. I'm not a younger man. I'm in the world. I'm like any other balabas who's here. I'm in the world. I have a laptop. I'm fully connected. For many years I had a smartphone. Baruch Hashem, I gave it up, but I did that also. And I'm also struggling like everybody else. And I'm here to share with you some of the observations which I and other people have had throughout these struggles, and hopefully you will benefit from that. So we are struggling. Everybody's struggling, or on whatever level, as the Rav said before. Everybody can be on a different level, and in one mishpacha, people can be on different levels. But we do have to get a grip on our struggles, and we have to have focus, and we have to have direction. We are now almost 10 years since Klal Yisrael took a huge step. It's precisely 9 years since City Field, and of course there were people talking about filtering and other things like that before City Field. But at City Field, it was brought to the fore in a very great way. And it is time now that we put filtering behind us and move on to the next level. To me, it is incredible, shall I say, that nine years into this public awareness campaign, there are still some people who have not filtered their devices, or maybe even their home device, which their children have access to. And it's not my intention to talk about that tonight, because I want to talk about the next step. But just in case anybody has a suffix, if it's actually a chiyuv for a person to filter this. I have a letter here from Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky and Ramakil Cutler signed, but it was mainly from Reb Shmuel. And Reb Shmuel here quotes the Chaye Adam talking about kitnius. And the Chaye Adam, when he talks about kitnius, he says that it is incumbent on the Chachmei Hadar to make gzeres and takonos to guard the people in their generation. And he says we have a chiyuv d'oraisa, he says, to listen to these takonos. And he says, afilu Go'inei zmanenu. This is not something which expired when Chazal were over, or kitnius indeed is from the Go'inim. No, even bizmanenu we have to listen. Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky writes based on that. He says the above words of the Chaye Adam make it evident that Gedolei Yisrael have the power to make takonos for their generation to keep Yidden protected from hate. As is well known, the Gottleib Yisrael from all Kilos and Klal Yisrael have stated unequivocally that it is forbidden to access the internet without a proper filter being employed. It is therefore clear that accessing the internet without a filter is an actual isser, and that there is no room for leniency in this matter. So this is what Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky says, and I think this, I'm not saying that it's not an nisayon, and I'm not saying that, it's not difficult, and I'm not saying that there's no sacrifice involved. But we're all El Chidin, we're Shem Ritayru Mitzvahs. So this is what Reb Shmuel Kamenetsky is saying is an actual chiyuv. But to relegate the technology discussion to a mutter, usser, filter, non-filter discussion is really a very shallow way of looking at an incredibly complex issue. I think many people in our community think of the internet like sort of like this big juicy red apple with a worm. Unfortunately, what do you need to do? Just take a knife and cut out, at least the people on this side of the mechitza. Just take a knife and cut out the worm, and then you can go ahead and you can enjoy the apple. That is, like I'm saying, that's really a shallow way to look at something which is very, very complex. I hope to share with you tonight a Torah perspective on this issue. We are Yidden. We have a unique perspective on everything in the world, and especially on something like digital technology. But before that, I want to share with you what some of the Chachmei Umas HaOlam have to say about this issue. So here we have some quotes from famous people. Some of them, I mean, I hope that not everybody here in the audience knows all of these names, but they are considered famous guys. Here we go. While technology is important, it's what you do with it that truly matters. Technology itself is neither good or bad. People are good or bad. Technology is a queer thing. It brings you great gifts with one hand, and it stabs you in the back with the other. Technology is, of course, a double-edged sword. Fire can cook our food, but it also burns us. Technology is a useful servant, but a dangerous master. If we continue to develop our technology without wisdom or prudence, our servant may prove to be our executioner. Technology should improve your life, not become your life. And finally, from Buckminster Fuller, humanity is acquiring all the right technology for all the wrong reasons. So here's a bunch of wonderful quotes which theoretically should tell us that there are wise people amongst the nations who realize the danger of technology. Here's from the download from MIT Technology Review. They have a daily email called The Download, which I subscribe to because I need to know what's going on in technology. And here for the quote of the day. Every day they have a quote, and here's the quote of the day, which says, "I am convinced the devil lives in our phones and is wreaking havoc on our children." The important thing is that this Miss Chavaria, who made this, is the assistant at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. So she's right out there working for Facebook, and this is what she says: the devil is in our phone, and she's convinced that this is wreaking havoc on our children. And finally, I want to show you a little film, which is actually, it is the precursor to a movie which has come out called The Social Dilemma. The Social Dilemma, it's a documentary which was put out with many people, maybe 30 luminaries, talking about different issues that there are, particularly with social networking. And this is a little preliminary which was put out about maybe 2 years ago to that documentary.
The tycoons of social media have to stop pretending that they're friendly nerd gods building a better world and admit they're just tobacco farmers in t-shirts, selling an addictive product to children. Because let's face it, Philip Morris just wanted your lungs. The App Store wants your soul.
People check their phones 150 times a day, the millennial sort of audience. And so if you think about it, from the moment you wake up, it's like you're jacked in to this environment. And thoughts start streaming into your head, designed by a few technology companies.
What we find is the typical person checks their phone every 15 minutes or less. And half of the time they check their phone, there's no alert, no notification. It's coming from inside their head telling them, gee, I haven't checked in Facebook in a while. I haven't checked on this Twitter feed for a while. I wonder if somebody commented on my Instagram post. That then generates cortisol, and it starts to make you anxious, and eventually your goal is to get rid of that anxiety, so you check in.
And apparently we feel stressed when we can't get our phone or when our battery is about to die. A research done in Australia among 3,000 people under the age of 30 found that 9 out of every 10 admit to feel this anxiety while having this battery dying.
Steve Jobs revolutionized the entire world with the iPhone, and he never let his children use it.
Right now, an infant is getting their first laptop that's soft and squishy and makes noise. Right now, a child is being born online and being favorited and retweeted.
The hypergenerational segregation of our time is bizarre, unhealthy, and historically unprecedented. Because they're texting and using their Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and don't even know each other. In the house and can't even talk to each other. And the pressure that's on us to be like everybody else is so great that everybody tries to live like they're in a reality show. We are great consumers, but poor producers. We will buy what we can't afford with money that we don't have to impress people we don't even know, trying to be like everybody else. Get off of Facebook and put your face in a book.
Right now, influencers encourage narcissism without knowing the breadth and depth of their impact on their audiences.
There's always this narrative that technology is neutral and it's up to us to choose how we use it. This is just not true.
Technology is not neutral.
It's not neutral. They want you to use it in particular ways and for long periods of time because that's how they make their money.
You don't realize it, but you are being programmed. If you feed the beast, that beast will destroy you. If you push back on it, we have a chance to control it and rein it in. And it is a point in time where people need to hard break from some of these tools and the things that you rely on. Misinformation, mistruth, and it's not an American problem. This is not about Russian ads. This is a global problem.
So I think, a lot of people, when they see this, and the quotes that we had before, and so on and so forth, they think like, this is really cool. Like, the Goyim, they get it. This is like the Yeshua. The Yeshua is coming. Rabbi Sai, pardon me for repeatedly using the word cool in a Beis Medrash, but that's not what's cool. You know what's cool? Cool is if we figure this out from Torah. We don't need to wait for them. We have Pirkei Avos, we have Chovos Halevavos, we have Archas Tzadikim. We know what's right and what's wrong. We know the truth. We could have figured all this out all by ourselves. You just need to take one look at it and start to process it with a Torah mind. Start to think, what does it mean when a person takes a selfie and shares that selfie? Translate that. What is that? Or all these other things. What is unlimited access to shopping? What does that mean? Come, let's translate that. Remember something you learned in yeshiva or in seminary. What does that mean? What does that translate into? There was a documentary made by Fox News about the Frum community and internet or technology. And they asked to interview me. And even though the interviewer assured me that this was going to be a neutral thing and so on and so forth, I had my doubts. And I said, I'm only ready to speak off the record. And in the end, it was a Siyata D'Shmaya. Even I didn't dream. She sounded so nice. I didn't dream. It was a Yafed piece, totally Yafed. It was just a hit job on the Frum community, made to make the Frum community look bad. That's all it was. So, Baruch Hashem. But I told this lady, we had a long conversation, like 45 minutes. I said, I want to tell you something. Every once in a generation, or however often it happens, there's a huge social experiment going on. And you have to be part of that experiment. I said, she's Fox News, so obviously she's right-wing. I said, 100 years ago, there was something called socialists. I think every one of us, people like you and me, we would have been socialists, because what were the capitalists? The capitalist was an egotistical person who only cares about himself. He just wants to make money for himself by exploiting other people. The socialists came on with great ideas. Let's be fair, let's give to everybody, let's share the wealth, and so on and so forth. Big mistake, right? So here's the way it works. You people, you have no choice. You have to be part of these experiments because you have no inherited truths. There's nothing that you know for sure to be true. But we have God-given truths. We know that we don't have to be part of your experiments because we know how the experiments are going to turn out. And that's what we have to know. And we cannot rely on them. I know some people, like, they see these things, all of a sudden it comes out that Steve Jobs didn't give his kid an iPad, or that there's this school, I forget what it's called, maybe somebody in the audience knows, this private school in California where all the great people send their kids and they don't use technology, blah, 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 blah. And we get all excited, like as if like the Yeshua's around the corner somehow. It's not going to come from the Umas Ha'olam. I mean, let's balance out a little bit what we saw before. For example, with this. Never before in history has innovation offered promise of so much to so many in so short a time. Bill Gates, of course. Technology is teaching us to be human again. Listen to that pearl of wisdom. Or how about this? Animals have come to mean so much in our lives. We live in a fragmented and disconnected culture. Politics are ugly. Religion is struggling. Technology is stressful. The economy is unfortunate. What's one thing we have in our lives that we can depend on? A dog or cat, loving us unconditionally every day, very faithfully. That's what they're turning to. They recognize that there are issues. They have their dog or their cat. I made this presentation about a year and a half ago. I was somewhere a few weeks ago, and I was riding in an elevator, and all of a sudden a lady comes in with her dog to the elevator, whatever, and I said hello, and she says, oh, you know, so precious, I just lost my mother during COVID. What would I do without her? She's giving us so much love and whatever, we're just making it through. So that's it, so she doesn't have a mother, but she has her dog. This is so... Or how about this? When I made this presentation, I was actually here. I Googled this. Benefits of television. Just on a lark. I wanted to see what's going to come up. Benefits of television. So there were 407 million results, which if you do Google, you know they're not all exactly going to be that, but somehow the combination of benefits of television. And this is what came up. 7 benefits of watching TV. Hold on to your chair. So here we go. TV can help kids learn about a variety of subjects. Through media, kids can explore places, animals, or things that they couldn't see otherwise. TV shows can inspire kids to try new activities and engage in unplugged learning. Get that? Unplugged learning. They have it for the TV, for the learning. TVs and movies can motivate kids to read books. That's a goodness. This guy's a real Bankishran. To read books, right? Kids can build analytical skills by discussing media. No other way to build your analytical skills. Parents can use TV to help kids learn about the truth about advertising. You understand? Your kid can learn about lung cancer by smoking. Give him cigarettes and then he'll find out firsthand what might happen. Or good role models and examples on TV can positively influence kids. I'm just saying, we can't wait for the Umas Ha'olam to save us from digital technology. They're not going to save themselves. They can make a ripple here and a ripple there. It's not going to come from that. It's going to come from inside us. We can look at their research. It's fine. We have what to learn from them. They made this huge problem. They do understand a few things about it. That's fine. And we do in TAG, as you can see. I am doing it. And we do the research. But in the end, what's going to save us is something uniquely Jewish that we have about us, uniquely Yiddish that we have about us, that we are Yidden, and we're not going in the same direction that they are, and we're not going to fall for the same problems that they fall. So this goes way beyond just filtering. This goes into living the digital life for every person, like the Rav said before, every person at their madrega, where they need to be engaged with digital technology, where they can take the step back. But why do I say that it's so important that we put filtering behind us? Let's just get that under control and brace and get ready for the next step. So that's what I want to discuss now for another few minutes, because we're going to a world in which it's not a question of going online. We're heading to a world where we're going to be living online. And there's a certain progression that happened here, and it's hard for us, because we're living through this, it's hard for us to remember the history. But just a little while ago, if you wanted to be on the internet, you had to be parked in a certain place. Do we remember that? Can we stretch our minds back to remember? The internet lived on your desktop computer. And I want to remind you, do you remember what one of the most sticky things there was then? It was called MapQuest. You could actually put in your destination, and then you could print out on a piece of paper turn-by-turn directions. And then mommy could tell Tati, oh, I think you missed the left turn. What am I supposed to do now? I don't know. This is the paper that we printed. We were all, wow. Because there was no Waze. You couldn't have Waze. There was no mobile internet. It didn't exist. And then Steve Jobs came along with his, what people consider maybe a stroke of genius, and said, hey, we're going to dump the internet into a portable device. But it wasn't a stroke of genius. It was a necessity. Because little by little, as people's go-to place for research, for information, for entertainment, for business became the internet, it just became impractical to have that thing tethered to your desk. How are you supposed to live? Kol ha-pirish min ha-internet, ki-pirish min ha-chayim. You had to be able to take the internet together with you in a portable way. And by the way, the things feed each other. Once the internet became mobile, then now there's mobile applications. You couldn't have had iTunes, for example, if there was no mobile internet. What, I only listen to my music when I'm at my desk? What kind of a thing is that, right? So the things grow on each other. And now we're coming to the next step, which many of you are aware of. It's not enough. I can't be burdened to have this huge clunky. I'm only going to have access to the internet when I have the clunker in my hand. Like, how is that supposed to work? What am I doing the dishes or doing something else? How is that supposed to work? So we have to go to the next step. We have to go to wearables. We have to go to heads-up displays, and that's where the world is heading. So, for example, Amazon Echo. I need the internet built into the walls of my house, and I can talk, and then I can access the internet. It can't be burdened with having to type in different things or whatever. Wearables, as you know, or Microsoft HoloLens, which is there to give you a heads-up display. Do you know? I wish I had a video of this in this presentation, but that guy is wearing the Microsoft HoloLens. He's seeing in 3D. He's seeing things in his environment. You can play a video game literally in your environment. So you could, if you're playing a shooting game, you could hide behind this table and the bullets are not going to be able to get to you because it processes everything around you. Windows 10 is optimized for HoloLens. This is not stuff, this is Microsoft, old stuffy Microsoft right here is busy building this reality. And finally, I think this was discontinued, but when I made this presentation, there was something called Barbie Hello. Barbie Hello is a little Barbie doll and connected to the internet via Wi-Fi, and Barbie Hello actually learns from every interaction which you have with Barbie. Both learns from all the interactions that millions of children are having with Barbie in their central database, and your personal interaction. So it's a Kleinigkeit, it's nothing. You have cloud storage, you have the programs, the algorithms which can do learning, and you drop it into a doll, and you're going to drop it into any place where it can be. So we're walking into a world. A friend of mine, a very, very smart person, he came over to me in Lakewood. I remember we were standing outside the cleaners. He came over to me and said, Rabbi Gottleib, he said, you're busy with online. He said, we're going into a world where there's not going to be a meaningful difference between being online and offline. And that's true. So this is recognized as the fourth industrial revolution. And the person who popularized that term is Klaus Schwab, who is the founder and president of the gathering at Davos every year, the big financial gathering. And they actually devoted a whole year, I think it was 2019 or 2018, to studying the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And what he writes in his book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution is that in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, digital connectivity enabled by software technologies is fundamentally changing society. The scale of the impact and the speed of the changes taking place have made the transformation that is playing out so differently from any other industrial revolution in human history The World Economic Forum's Global Agenda Council on the Future of Software and Society, that's a big one, conducted a survey of 800 executives to gauge when business leaders anticipate that the following game-changing technologies would break into the public domain to a significant degree. So here I'm going to give you a list of some of the things which they believe 800 executives. Now, nobody says they're right. They're CEOs of companies, they're executives. They're not futurists and they're not experts on technology, but this is an indication of where people who are in the know believe that the world is heading. So over 80% of respondents expected the following outcomes by 2025. That's 3.5 short years away from now. So here we go. 90% of the population with regular access to the internet via smartphones, and 80% of people with a digital presence on the internet. Do you understand? 90% of the population. There's still over a third of the world that doesn't have running water. They don't have toilets in their homes. But they're all going to be connected to the internet. And by the way, this is not just a question about what's going to happen to the people in Africa or to the Aborigines. That doesn't really interest us. This is a question about how society is going to expect people to be connected. Today, people can still make a serious decision about, I'm not going to have internet in my home. I'm not going to have a smartphone. Where are we heading? When every savage in Africa has internet, there's a certain expectation that's being built in. 90% of people having unlimited and free storage. 1 trillion sensors connected to the internet, and over 50% of internet traffic delivered to homes for appliances and devices, not for entertainment and communication. In other words, right now, most people here have zero internet coming into their house for their appliances. Maybe a few people, some people have maybe a smart home, they have a Nest, they have a device which they can control their, you know, maybe some of them their lights, or maybe they can control the air conditioning or whatever. But the amount of a movie as an enormous amount of data. The things which come on the internet, things which we're using now, entertainment and information, they're huge. For the traffic flowing into homes for your devices, and what are they talking about? They're talking about smart refrigerators, smart washing machines, smart dryers. A smart refrigerator, which companies are already advertising, it's a little bit of a sheker, they don't really have it in the bag yet, but they're already, LG and other companies are talking about it as if it's around the corner. And by the way, with technology, the fact that somebody says it's going to be in 3 years, maybe it'll be in 6 years, or 9 years, or 10 years, or maybe it will never, the specific thing might never happen, we don't know. But we're talking about the trends. The smart refrigerator is a refrigerator which can sense what it has inside of it, which is a kleinigkeit, to have the sensors and the cameras and be able to figure out what it has inside of it. That exists today. And then, based on your habits, on your consumption, it can go ahead and reorder whatever it is that you need. Now, it's not just based on what you actually, let's say, the ketchup is finishing or so on and so forth. The refrigerator can have access to a person's calendar, to a person if they have social media for whatever, to their Facebook, to their email, to everything that's going on in their life. The refrigerator can know that they're having a party next week, and the refrigerator can plan for that party. This is not science fiction. It's just a little bit too complicated and expensive to put it in every home right now. All the technology is there. These are just pieces that need to be put together. Now get this. I saw an article in Wired, which is a real geeky magazine, and the article in Wired said this. And again, I don't know that this is true. I know that this is what this writer said, and it makes sense. It got published. Here's what he said. He said, these refrigerators are going to be distributed for free. Big excitement. Okay, why are they going to be distributed for free? Very simple. Because the advertisers, the food companies, are going to license the right from the refrigerator manufacturer to go ahead and advertise to you. So here's the way it works. If you use Heinz ketchup, Mishpacha is going to go ahead and license the right to your refrigerator. When you finish the last squeeze of that bottle of ketchup, you will get a personal notification from your refrigerator that Mishpacha ketchup right now for you at 50%. Just press yes, it'll be delivered to your door. In other words, they're going to be able to gauge what you're doing. Now again, will it happen or not? I don't know. Basically, the whole internet works that way, by the way, right now. Anything free that you get is because it's giving whoever's giving that to you for free the ability to advertise to you and sell to you and manipulate you. But that's the world that we're moving into. Driverless cars equaling 10% of all cars on U.S. road 3 years from now. the first robotic pharmacist in the US. Why have a person? The first artificial intelligence machine on a corporate board of directors. So you're going to have people and an AI machine sitting there. Only 46% of the people said this. Everything else was over 80%. I think maybe that's because of their gaiva. They don't want to think they're being replaced by a machine. I don't know. 10% of reading glasses connected to the internet. Reading glasses connected to the internet. Google Glass, as everybody knows, is a big flop just because of the form factor. They didn't get it right. Not because the idea was a wacky idea or something that's not going to happen. 10% of people wearing clothes connected to the internet. They have already now. They have smart shoes from Nike and other things, clothes which are connected to the internet. They're talking about, for example, you could have a shirt which will check your posture. How are you standing? You know, is it or other things like that. These are all things which are being worked on right now. The first transplant of a 3D printed liver, so that's 3D printing. The first implantable mobile phone available commercially. Just something in your brain. Whoever's following this Neuralink, Elon Musk, our favorite Meshuggah, just said that the first commercial product of Neuralink will be an implant which will connect you to the phone. They're saying right now that it's for people who are paralyzed or whatever. That's always the way it works, right? They're there for a medical purpose, and then then it gets out into the wild. The first human with fully artificial memory implanted in the brain. So this is the world which is coming, and the first human genome was directly and deliberately edited is born. Okay, this is what's coming, and this is why I say we can't be stuck here. We're like stuck before first base. Filtering is something like the Rebbeinu Shalom said, okay, I'm going to give you the small nisayon first. I'm going to give you the easy thing first. What did we say when we came along with filtering? We said, look, at that point it didn't cost money. Now it does, but it's not going to break anybody's bank. And by the way, Tag Waterbury, not every tag. This is not a built-in tag service. But Tag Waterbury has a fund. If somebody cannot afford filtering, then Tag Waterbury will swipe the credit card for them. Kol hakavod, something very, very special. So it doesn't really cost too much. Does it cause some problems on the device? Yes, it can cause some problems here and there. There can be tech support issues. It might slow down a little bit, but nothing which is, we're not asking for real Mesiras Nefesh. And that was like a preview, and we were supposed to get that all done, good. And then Habolatayim Messiah, we were supposed to be going, we were supposed to be doing that, and as Hashem, everybody, they have this first step, and then we were supposed to be processing. But what's going on my filtered device? What's going on with WhatsApp statuses? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? Is this really the way I want to live my life? Is this good for my ruchnis? Is this good for my family? Is this good for my kids? Is this good for my shalom bayis? Is this good for my parnasa? By the way, Rabbi Eisenberger, who you might know from Borough Park, he was one of the first people to talk about this, and I remember it was in 2008. When everybody's parnasa was tanking, and he said, yes, there is a recession and there is problems, but I can tell you from knowing what's going on, when a guy's wasting 2-3 hours a day on his on the internet, that's also not good for parnasa. That's definitely, people are taking a hit right there. So that's what you're supposed to be doing, and we're still, like I'm saying, some of us are stuck before first base. So we do have to. So let's say we got the filters under control, and we have them under our belt. The next thing is that this is a constant area of cheshbon hanefesh. It's something which, as the Rav also mentioned before, this is something which it changes, and we change, and our reactions change, and our necessities change every day, and we are on a downward escalator, meaning the world forces us to become more and more involved with technology. We have to be going in the opposite direction. And I want to suggest to you tonight that we all have areas of gadlus and katnas. Every person sitting here, on both sides of the mechitza, every person has a certain area of greatness that maybe if their friend or their sister or their brother never knew that about them, and they would find out that she does this or he does that, say, wow, I never knew that. Like, wow, that's really great. And then we all have areas of katnas where we're very, very small, where we would not want anybody to find out how tiny we are. I suggest that we make digital technology an area of gadlus. It should be an area of greatness, not because so many times people feel like, you know what, I'm all stressed out with this or with that. Like, I'm saying Parak Shira 4 times a night for this girl this older single who's not married. So just let me have my little digital technology. we have to recognize this is something which can change our entire lives. If we make it an area of godless, if we make it an area of growth, if we work on it together, father and mother, husband and wife, we work on it and we make it, first of all, a personal area. By the way, you're never going to hear, the schmooze from somebody in TAG talking to parents to educate them about what they should be doing with their children. It starts with us. If we're doing everything we need to do, whatever our tzrachim are, or wherever we're holding, if we're honestly evaluating ourselves and working on ourselves, then yes, then the next step is what we can do for our children. There's no way. This was with Mechanchim, but I had an unforgettable experience. With Torah Masorah, they have a midwinter convention for principals, and they did it a number of times in Eretz Yisrael. And the first 2 times that they did in Eretz Yisrael, so I was involved in the planning and executing of that trip. And I took the Menahalim, we went to Reb Michal Yehuda Zatzal, and we sat there for like an hour and a half. Reb Michal Yehuda was a Veltz Mechanech, he was an incredible Mechanech. And the Menahalim just couldn't get enough, asking questions, and Das Torah more and more with his unique perspective was really something unforgettable. And then we went to Rav Aaron Leib. And I had a certain nonkeit with Rav Aaron Leib, and I introduced everybody, and I said, okay, the Rosh Yeshiva, the Mechanchim Daf in America, the Menalim, they will have Hadracha from the Rosh Yeshiva, they want the Rosh Yeshiva to give them guidance. And he said that it's very, very famous, that with the Magid, with the Vilna Gaon, that there was a story about how to give Musar, and the punchline of the story was this, that instead of taking a pitcher and pouring out from the pitcher to each glass, and in the end the pitcher becomes empty, you have to keep on pouring into the pitcher until the pitcher overflows, and then when it overflows, then the Talmidim are going to get what they need to get. And he said, you're Menalim, you have to make sure that you're learning, that you have a Seder every day, and you're learning Torah, and you're growing yourselves, and then it will overflow. Okay, it was a nice akdama. I said, and what's nach Rosh Yeshiva? He said, das. The Menalim will Hadracha. Das. And it was Shalom Aleichem, goodbye. That was what he felt they needed to hear. And like we say, like Zekla Goda Batayra, Idach Pirusha, Zilgmar, everything else is going to come from that. I'm saying the same thing is true for parents. It has to be overflowing from us. It has to be part of our identity. This is who we are. This is what we stand for. We're not going with the flow. It's not about no, it's about yes. It's about who we are. I'll share with you a vart. Everybody knows Avram HaIvri. What does Avram HaIvri mean? That the whole world was on one side, and Avram Avinu was on the Eiver Acher, who was on the other side. And what we're used to thinking is it means like this. It just so happened that everybody in his generation were Eiver Avodah Zarah. They were. So he couldn't hang out with them, so he was on the other side. That's true. But I think there's something a little bit deeper over here. It's not that they happened to be doing... No. Avram HaIvri means, you know why I'm here? Because they're there. I'm the one who doesn't do what everybody else do, because I'm levadad yishkain. And the truth is, if we would think deeply about this, and it's not, maybe it would take a while to develop this theme, which I'm not going to do tonight, but if you would think really deeply about it, we should recognize that if they believe that digital technology is the utopia, if they believe that this is what expresses all of their aspirations and their desires and their values, that should be enough to tell us that we have to take a step back. Then we don't belong there. Rav Elia Brudny once said that if they say the internet is a global village, so what is a Yid doing in that global village? The whole globe is in that village. A Yid doesn't belong there. So of course, everybody has their tzrachim, and everybody, most people today, there's almost nobody who doesn't actually himself need to use the internet, and some people must have smartphones, and everybody has whatever they must have. But what we're talking about tonight is taking a step back and evaluating, what do I really need? How is this affecting me? What are the parts which fit in with who I am? We're not telling a person to be somebody different, but who am I? I come to davening, I daven with a minyan, I'm kavei itim la Torah, I want my children to grow up and be nice children. I'm an Erlich Yid. So does my digital life reflect that? Or does my digital life not reflect that? And that brings us maybe full circle to, again, like I said, what was the initial purpose of my visit here? It was to help the tag office with the Gashmias. Having a tag center in a community is more than just making filtering convenient, which is very, 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 very important. It's making a statement about who we are, what our Yiddishkeit is, what does Waterbury stand for. This is who we are, this is what we are. I'll tell you a really funny story. I was born in Boston, and I lived until a very young age, till I was 2 years old, but it's for some, like, it's funny, but it bothers me on a personal level that Boston does not have a tag center as of yet. And they have, there are communities which are much smaller, including Waterbury, which has a tag center. It's not much smaller than Boston, it's smaller, but there are communities which are even smaller. We're working right now with 2 communities which have about 50 mishpachas, and they're opening up tag centers. So every time I'm in touch with the Menalim, the Rabbanim, I always kibitz with them about this, what's going to be with Boston, what's going to be with the hometown. So I was speaking to a friend of mine, he's the Eidim of the Boston Rebbe, and he lived in Boston for a while by his shver, and then he moved back to Lakewood, and I said, Avrumi, how could it be that Boston, you don't have a tag center? He says, you don't understand the people in Boston. He says, let me tell you something. He says, in Boston, there's no money in Boston, the money's in Newton, and in Newton they wanted to make a mikveh. And they couldn't even put together the money locally. They had to get the money from Mikveh USA, Yidden from Satmar, whatever, had to fund the mikveh. He said anyway, so he met a guy from Newton that he knows, and he says to him, Bob, what's with you guys? You don't have a mikveh. What's going on? He says, Rabbi, we don't even have a kosher pizza shop. You want us to have a mikveh? So everybody has their conception of what a kehillah needs. And we have to understand that having tag means, again, that this is part of our Yiddishkeit. We daven, we learn, we give tzedakah, hachnas hasarchim, we work on our shmir salashim, we do all these things, and we care about kedusha, and we care about the type of chinuch that our children are going to get, so on and so forth, and we have a tag center. And I think that, especially because when we recognize that everything that we're building, and in every community, but especially a community like Waterbury, which is built on Mesiras Nefesh of the Rosh Yeshiva, building here a yeshiva, and then Mishpachas building over here. Everything over here is being built to the 10 fingers of the people sitting here. Everybody here carries a burden for the meistus in the community, etc. A person has to say to themselves that if chas v'shalom, we don't have the hishtatvus of the community, if we don't get everybody properly filtering and being on top of their digital technology, then there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket. Whatever we're pouring in, chas v'shalom, could go right out of the bottom. So when you're in a situation like that, and there is something, and this is true in Waterbury, it's true for the whole Jewish people as a whole, but when you're in a situation like that, the first thing, of course, is to protect your mishpacha. Chayecha kaidmin. Make sure your devices are protected. Make sure you're thinking together again, husband and wife, really thinking, what do we need? What don't we need? What are we doing? How can we be better? But it's not enough for a person to protect themselves. A person has to do something to protect the community. And here's the opportunity. By supporting TAG, you're going ahead and you're helping other Yidden. You're helping ensure that everything that you are building here with your Mesiras Nefesh is going to have a kiyum, and it's going to be successful in Mitzvah Hashem. I want to leave you with one last thought, which I always try to end off my justice with this thought. This is something which I heard from the Mashgiach of Matzio Salomon a number of times. He should be gesund and stark. They should give him a refuah shleima. Everything that we're doing in this area is really was his initiative, and he crafted the mission. He foresaw what TAG should be and how to make TAG and why it's vital to have TAG in every community. Like we said, that there should be that statement, should be part of the community. There should be somebody local who understands the local people, who can give the local people advice, who can connect, that they identify with, so on and so forth. All of this is really from Matzio. Matzio said this. He said, it is impossible for anybody to create an environment in their home that will ensure that their children are going to be protected from digital harm. Because even if your home is, let's say, theoretically technology free, or if that's not even an aspiration for your home because it's impossible, but all the technology is locked up and everything is with the proper filters and passcodes and everything else, but there are neighbors and there are cousins and there are Hanukkah parties, and then Bachram go off to yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, and I don't even want to talk about what's going on over there. So there are so many different ways which your children can get harmed. But, the Mashgiach says, if you do your best, if you follow the Das Torah, and you try with your own technology, and with the technology in your home, to do the best to the best of your ability, then you can daven to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And you can expect Siyata Dishmaya. But, says the Mashgiach, if you have not done yours, Don't daven because he's not listening. So let's all take upon ourselves this evening to be misoyer, to do our best, to do cheshbon hanefesh, to try to be ma'aseh. It's hard. I don't want. We're not saying it's easy. Just no. We're talking about things which are hard. Taking steps which really people have gotten used to certain conveniences, to certain styles of life. And we're asking people to really think it through. And nobody says that changes have to happen overnight. And nobody says that we're going to be successful with everything that we need to do. Besides for everything else, after we all, myself included, pretend that everything, we have a sheet about everything, we also have a Yetzer Hara. And it's hard. And sometimes the Yetzer Hara gets the upper hand. That's just who we are. We're not such great people. But at least we have to know. We have to know what the ideals are. And we have to strive. And we have to set our sights high, and then by all means open the siddur, daven, pour your heart out to the Ribbono Shel Olam, and he will bench every single one of you with those wonderful lichtige Yiddish kinderlach that you want, Talmidei Chachamim, Yirei Shamayim, Midas Tovos, who give nachasuach to the Ribbono Shel Olam.